I'm still surprised by a lot of founders when I ask them, like, how many customers did you talk to? They're like, oh, I talked to 3 customers last week or 5 customers last month. I'm like, are you kidding me? You need to be talking to 3 to 5 customers a day. You'll be attending so many networking parties, going to every single conferences, going to every single speaking events, but you don't go back to fundamentals of building a strong product. None of that really matters until you find a strong product market fit in the early days. None of it else matters. Hi, my name is John, founder and CEO of Sendbird. We are the world's leading conversations platform for mobile application. We power 250 million users on a monthly basis, sending 7+ billion messages, powering major applications like DoorDash, PayPal, Reddit, Yahoo Fantasy Sports, Krafton in Korea. Today, we have over 340 employees globally in 7 different countries. We have collectively raised over $220 million in funding, which valued our company over $1 billion. Something that a lot of first-time founders don't really think about is they look for market trends or opportunities they think that are interesting and timely, but a lot of founders pick ideas that are not really aligned to their own strengths. So what ends up happening is after 2 to 3 years, they realize that pretty much whatever you do is harder than you think. It will take longer, it will be harder. So a lot of smart people end up giving up too quickly because it wasn't really something that they want to commit for the next 10 years. Whatever the next thing you pick, try to see if you can really commit to the idea. Imagine yourself doing that for the next 10 years, which is very, very hard. But if you can really see yourself in the next 10 years doing things, hopefully greater at scale, that's would be more important questions I would also ask myself when I'm starting my next company is can I commit to this for the next 10 years? I'm still surprised by a lot of founders when I ask them, like, how many customers did you talk to last week? They're like, oh, I talked to 3 customers last week or 5 customers last month. I'm like, are you kidding me? You need to be talking to 3 to 5 customers a day. People who are good with one thing tend to overlook the others. So for instance, if you're an engineer, if you love building great products, you will be naturally biased for spending more time on product. So instead of spending more time with customer, you're like, oh, you think you have an idea about customer? You try to go and build it before even talking to customers or validating from customers. If you're so outward facing, you'll be attending so many networking parties, going to every single conferences, going to every single speaking events, but you don't go back to fundamentals of building a strong product. So think about what your strengths are and try to make sure that you are balancing out talking to customers and building a fantastic product. Try to deprioritize everything else. None of that really matters until you find a strong product market fit in the early days. None of it else matters. In the early days, if you're trying to find product market fit, it was obviously within 24 hours. You talk to a customer, in the evening you build something, next day you follow up. 20 to 40 hours is when you follow up. So when I was doing the sales call myself, towards the end of the first call, I will always say within 24 hours, you'll hear back from me on XYZ, whether it be pricing, the next steps. Within 48 hours, you'll get a quote from me. So I always try to set that milestone in my very first call that when I will be following up. If there's a feature development, they will surely know at least whether we're going to deliver it or not within 24 hours. And if we do, we'll probably ship it within a week. Have about a 2 weeks sprint. So every 2 weeks, we're releasing something new about our product. So we have that level of iteration. Once the B2B gets to a certain scale, you can't do on a daily release. They'll freak out some customers because they built one way. Next day, the documentation changes. They're going to freak out. So you want to manage the expectation, the cadence a little bit. So you kind of build that, whether it be 2 to 3 weeks cadence back in the day. So it's a matter of days, and if not a week. But the way I think about culture is they call organizations superorganisms. It's a collection of people, but the collection is greater than the individuals combined. So 1 + 1 is not 2, ideally it's 3 and greater. So if you were to look at a person has a set of core values, they may have dreams and aspirations. If you kind of map that to an organization, you can also think of the culture as your core values. Personal core values turn into corporate core values, your organization's strengths and weaknesses. All those things collectively combined is something that we kind of put a label on it called a culture. A culture is like a muscle memory. It's very hard to change a habit. It's very hard to just say, hey, today we're going to define our culture as XYZ. We're just going to change this way. It doesn't work like that. It's a collection of people's habits. That's again, a superorganism. So you have to really nudge and create an iterative feedback loop. It's a slowly evolving thing. So that's why it's so critical. Your day-to-day decision-making, day-to-day operation, everyday execution is really dictated by the culture of your organization, not by a couple of checklists. It's not what you write on the wall. It's what you do and live and breathe every day. And that is the culture. I came to realize the culture of a company is super important even way before I did my first startup. because I also used to work at other companies too before finishing school. We had 100 employees. CEO studied abroad, he was PhD. Actually, the idea was pretty cool. It was like the earlier version of Starlink. Then I started to see the company kind of not execute well, missing the goals. I think what really drove down the company was the culture. The leadership was disconnected from what was happening in the field. And then I started to see a lot of good people leave first. And people who were a little bit toxic and were not doing a good job, but they were great at like selling to their senior bosses, they were getting more power and like more roles. I can tell these guys who were playing StarCraft all day long. They were not working. If I were this person, if I were the CEO, what would I do differently? What would I have done differently? And ultimately came to the conclusion, like if they had a very strong culture of understanding, empowering, good people, and then knowing what was happening in the company, maybe they could have a different outcome. So when I started my first company and also second company, we started out with a mission statement, set of core values. We do workshops. We try to get the early employees and the management, like the founders, to get together, spend maybe a day talking about core values and the culture of the company. And so since then, we've always kind of thought culture was one of the most critical operating system of a company. People have to realize if your company is growing quickly, you don't really have a time to organically learn the things you need to learn. There's like the skill sets. So my general advice is continue to seek out companies or people that are maybe one stage or two stages ahead of you. And I think this is generalizable to not just to startups, but anyone seeking fast growth in their own professional lives, in their careers too. What does greatness look like? Try to seek out people who've been there, done that before, and then try to not connect with one, but try to interview 3, 5, 10 people to see what is a general pattern of greatness that look like that will get you to the next level of the company, next stage, maybe a year, 12 months from now, 24 months from now. Seek out people who kind of went down that path a few times. Then you'll start to find this pattern that start to emerge. What are things that you need to have 12 months from now, 24 months from now that you currently don't have? Then try to build a path towards that. Almost like Amazon's or Jeff Bezos' mantra of working backwards. Think about what your end game or next stage look like, and then figure out your steps to getting there and who do you need to work with. Upgrading or coaching your existing team or recruiting from somewhere else to really level your leadership. Because ultimately, the job of a CEO is to do 3 things, right? One is get the strategy right for your company, making sure it's executed, get the right teams onboarded, getting the resources, whether it be fundraising or allocating your resources. So it's strategy, people, or team, figuring out how you need to navigate those things to get to the next level. Have bigger dreams, have longer time horizon, also have the patience to hopefully dare and again, risk greater things. I believe that probably gave me more confidence to be able to do something like this. Coming to the US, when everybody said, no, you can't do it, we couldn't really find a playbook of a Korean startup coming to US and doing something in Silicon Valley. And literally everyone I spoke to, whether it be here in US or in Korea, said, no, it cannot be done, that's stupid, that's too risky, you'll lose all the money and your time, etc. But still be able to take that bet was probably coming from that first time experience, being able to achieve something, have the positive feedback loop, and increasing the time horizon of the next journey. So I think that's probably one of my greatest learning.